Well, it's the month of horror and the shadows grow longer. Halloween is creeping ever closer, so what better time to embrace the chilling, the monstrous and the ancient horrors that Doctor Who has occasionally dared to unleash. And while many fans rightly point to the weeping angels, the silence or the flood as terrifying monsters born in the revived era, let's take a moment to look back at one of the creepiest creatures in the show's arsenal. A truly blood-curdling fusion of folklore, Lovecraft and post-apocalyptic dread. They were described in the novelization almost like lampreys, with flesh that sloughs off like rotten kelp and mouths made for feeding, not speaking. They stalked the mist like revenants from a lost age, the Haemovores. Now, I don't know about you, but if these things were ever to be fully animated with modern effects, I keep picturing the grotesque sea monsters from Deep Rising lumbering through foggy towns and crashing out of the ocean like eldritch nightmares. The murk, the slime, the shrieks. Doctor Who missed a trick not bringing them back. And don't get me started on the Futurekind, the red-eyed half-mutant tribes from Utopia. Imagine them acting as a feral priesthood for the Haemovores, servants of a cultic disease creeping back through time. It practically begs for a return of this classic monster. But let's be honest, you can't bring back the Haemovores unless you're ready to bring back their master. And that, my friends, is a Fenric story. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Daemon, and today we're looking back at one of the most terrifying monsters ever to surface in the Doctor Who mythos, the Haemovores. And lurking behind them, an entity older than time, a god of manipulation, of cruelty and of ancient evil. Let's take a dive beneath the misty waves and look at the Wolves of Fenric. Introduced in The Curse of Fenric, these monsters weren't just mutated humans from the far future, they were us. 500,000 years down a poisoned timeline, human beings devolved into what biologists called Homo Haemovorax, creatures mutated by pollution, chemical waste and decay, surviving in a corrupted earth beneath a sky blackened by our own sins. They fed on blood but lived in seawater, able to survive the ocean's depths just as easily as they stalked the fog. These weren't just vampires, they were the product of our extinction. And it wasn't just their backstory that made them terrifying, they were a visual horror show. Webbed skin, bloated features and sucker-like mouths, perfect for draining life. As they aged, they transformed. The young ones were almost human, but with each passing century they lost more of their former selves. Eventually they became nothing but teeth, claws and ancient hate. And like all good vampires, they didn't just kill, they controlled. They could manipulate minds telepathically. They could climb walls like insects. Bullets didn't stop them. Only faith and a stake through the heart could keep them at bay. Now that's good horror, but it wouldn't be Doctor Who without a cosmic chess master behind it all. Enter Fenric. Call him a god, call him a primordial entity, call him a Lovecraftian puppet master. Whatever he was, the show made it very clear. This was no ordinary villain. This wasn't just a Time Lord with a grudge or a war criminal from Skaro. Fenric was something far worse, a universal force of chaos seeded throughout history to manipulate events across centuries. He wasn't just playing a game of chess with lives, he was the board. The Haemovores weren't just his minions, they were his legacy. Every step of Ace's journey, every beat of the Seventh Doctor's plan, it all led to that moment on the shore, when faith was shattered, when monsters screamed, and when a future was prevented through the sacrifice of the Ancient One, the last Haemovore. With a final act of defiance, the creature turned on its master, dragging Fenric into the poisoned mists and ending the cycle, at least for a time. But let's face it, if you think that's the last we've heard of Fenric, you haven't been paying attention. The audios, the books, the comics, they've all dabbled with his return. A god like that doesn't die, he just waits. Which begs the question, why hasn't the show brought him back? We weren't infected. We invited him in. By the year 2050, the world isn't burning, it's drowning. London is a skeleton of its former self. Only the tallest buildings rise above the waterline, their spires sticking out like tombstones from a sunken age. The Thames barrier failed long ago, leaving the old city to the tides. Central London has become the lower depths, a haunt of scavengers and ghost currents. So, southern England's coastline has, well, collapsed. Entire counties are just gone, swallowed up by the sea. Now, civilization sort of clings to these towering arcologies, self-contained vertical cities, all run by these corporate state hybrids. But, even these arcologies are starting to fail. Food is seriously scarce. Clean water, that's rationed. And disease, it breeds in the damp shadows. New Maiden's Point is one such arcology, built right atop the drowned northern coast. It's this vertical fortress just sort of perched above crumbling foundations. Society now is split by altitude, the dries above, clean artificial elite, and the wets below, flooded, lawless, and honestly forgotten. At its heart stands Hemotek Labs, a rusting tower flanked by constant blue light home to the tide core. Ostensibly a climate research facility, Hemotek is in truth the leader of humanity's desperate biological salvation gene therapy for survival. Their solution, adaptive sequencing, offers resistance to salt water, atmospheric decay and respiratory collapse. The poor sell themselves to the program willingly, reshaping their DNA for a chance at survival. Patients experience side effects, salt cravings, depigmentation, webbed extremities, and shared dreams of something whispering beneath the sea. Some wander into the flooded levels in a trance, some never return. The signs are subtle but spreading. Blackened veins, murmurs of drowned gods, old churches unearthed by erosion. One ruin stands beneath the wets, the remnants of St. Jude's. Its crypt lies sealed behind twisted steel and marine growth. Records show nothing unusual, but deeper scans reveal an object was once contained there. Now it's broken. Hemotek's therapy is traced to a recovered sample. Viking DNA, 1989, Maiden's Point. The genome is not fully human. Worse, it evolves, it adapts post-treatment, and it's transmitting something. Low-frequency psychic code with markers of memory and instinct. Not a mutation, a resurrection. These aren't monsters from the ocean. They are humanity transformed into the sea's memory. The act closes in the wets, right? Within a half-flooded Hemotek storage vault. There, suspended in tanks, float these twisted human shapes, barely alive, mouths open in, silent hymns. From the shadows, one of the earliest patients emerges, more beast than man. He does not speak, he only smiles with a mouth lined like a lamprey's. The following day, all surface communications fall silent. Patrols vanish, residential towers go dark. Throughout New Maiden's Point, one name begins appearing, scratched into walls and whispered in dreams: Fenric. Globally, those treated by Hemotek begin displaying symptoms. Many collapse, some vanish, others wander into the sea. Moira begins to feel the pull herself. Beneath her collarbone, a mark has appeared, a wolf's silhouette, faint but growing. The doctor uncovers Hemotek's foundation. The therapy wasn't just based on recovered DNA, it was built around it. During early construction, Viking remains were recovered beneath St. Jude's. Buried with them was residue from the creature known as the Ancient One. So Fenric didn't die, he splintered. Not physically, but psychically, into patterns and, probabilities. His influence just sort of lingered, staying latent, until science eventually gave it form. Hemotek, they activated Fenric by, repackaging him as salvation. An emergency broadcast suddenly cuts across all channels. Hemotek's CEO, Marshal Dmitri Sorin, addresses the public. And his name is no coincidence. The original Sorin, one of Fenric's pawns, died back in 1943. This new Sorin is calm but uncanny. His features seem stretched. His speech glitches subtly. Phase 2 of the therapy is declared mandatory. Biological adaptation for a drowning world. Across the city, the sea begins to rise unnaturally. Fog rolls in, thick green, wrong. People fall to the floor, gasping, and then they rise again. They are longer, stronger, webbed, armored. Their mouths stretch open with impossible teeth. Haemovores Reborn, not products of slow mutation, but designed. And they are not all monstrous. Some still appear human, only the mark gives them away. In the depths of the city, Moira joins the doctor and 2 survivors, an engineer from the wets and a grieving hydrologist, to descend into the ruins beneath St. Jude's. There, in the drowned chapel, lies a circle of bones arranged like a chessboard, a cracked containment flask at its center. The mark on Moira's skin pulses. She is not transformed, but you know she is no longer unmarked. She is a sleeper. The doctor traces the signal controlling the infected to the Tide Core, Hemotek's central AI. It was constructed from salvaged unit psychic mapping tech, which was originally designed to synchronize faith-based defenses. Now it's become Fenric's new host. To shut it down is to sever Fenric's reach, but doing so may kill every infected soul tethered to it. Moira proposes a different solution. Her consciousness is fractured, scattered across possible futures. She can overwrite the core's mind, drown Fenric in multiplicity, but it will destroy her physical self. Inside the Tide Core, the final confrontation unfolds. Not a battle, but a maze. Moira navigates fractured versions of herself, twisted, enlightened, broken. Fenric appears, no longer monstrous but, transcendent. Perfected, a god of adaptation, but he misunderstands her strength. Moira is not unified, she is scattered, and in that scattering lies her resistance. She fractures herself fully across the system, burning out the psychic link. Fenric's grip shatters. The Haemovores collapse. The tide halts. So Hemotek is dismantled. The infected are monitored, but many remain altered. Some still feel drawn to the sea. Others speak in their sleep, muttering ancient syllables lost to time. Moira is gone, her body lost to the psychic sea, but her essence lingers in the TARDIS. Occasionally the console whispers with her voice. Below the ocean, far beyond reach, a ripple stirs. In the dark, an eye opens. That's another one dragged from the darkest corners of the ocean, and what better tale for a month dedicated to horror than the slow corruption of a species who thought it could master its own future. If you take one thing away from this story, let it be this. The real monsters aren't always the ones in the dark. Sometimes they're the ones in the lab coat promising a better world. Thanks for dropping by the Snake Pit, where we thrive on untapped potential and lost opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell like the video, and leave your opinions in the comments, where naturally I won't read them. Until next time, stay venomous.